since you're...
It doesn't matter.
Okay, we'll let her read.
Well, I got to grab my Bible.
I've got it on the phone.
Oh, I'm reading your verse.
Well, I mean, it's about music.
Oh, that's perfect. Is it a psalm?
It is.
Okay, perfect. I'll read your verse.
It's God's verse. It's not
That's
my
true.
verse.
That's true. That's true.
I guess we better get started because we might miss something good. So we have two lovely ladies here with it. Well, first, let me say welcome. We are glad that you're here on GPS to God. Please make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Right down here, bottom of the screen. Just click it. Don't hit it. Right, Ryan?
Correct.
And, help us out. We're trying to reach more and more people, and you help us do that. So thank you very much. Facebook, we're not on Facebook. Let's cut that. Instagram. We could be on Facebook, I guess. But we are on Instagram.
Do you have a personal Facebook page you can share this to?
I do.
I mean,
All people should share it to their Facebook.
So you know where we are. If you listened before, you know where we are. Help us out. Subscribe, rate, review, all that kind of stuff. Let's get on to why we're here. Miss Meredith Andrews. She is with us. She does have Facebook. She has her own website, meredithandrews.com. She's on Instagram, Mayor Music. Is that how you would say that?
Yeah, because everybody calls me Mayor.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. But, I also liked it because it's like mere music. Like, I don't know. I felt like it had a deeper meaning. Like, without Jesus, it's mere music. I don't know. Anyways.
She is bringing the good stuff already.
Yes. This is going to be good.
I think I just overthink things, guys. But it's fine.
So that would be MERE Music.
You got it.
Mayor Music on Instagram. She is on Facebook. She does have a Facebook page. You can find her there as well. She has her music available on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, all those places. Check her out, Miss Meredith Andrews. Let's get to a couple accolades real quick. Dove Award winner. Not once, multiple times. Worship Song of the Year. Check that. Praise and Worship Album of the Year. She's got that too. Hardware hanging on the wall. Thank you very much for being here, Miss Meredith Andrews. And our first ever musician.
I'm so honored.
So
Thank
you. You are, don't feel pressure, but we got high expectations for you tonight.
I'll give it my all.
It's going great so far, other than me not knowing we don't have a Facebook account.
It's okay.
Ryan, make that happen.
No. Sure. I'll take care of that.
So, Miss Meredith Andrews, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
We also have, back with us again, Miss Lori Patterson. Lori with an E.
That's right.
Get it right when you send your fan mail in. Right. She is, we'll just call you out. She's a fangirl.
Yeah. I'm not going to miss this opportunity.
Well, I'm also a fan of Lori Patterson, just so we're clear.
Mutual. See that?
So
That's right. Our daughters were on the same cheerleading squad
That's
for
right.
a year.
That's deeper.
Season.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Much
right.
deeper.
So Lori made it clear that I don't have to be here, but I need to be there.
Yes.
Pretty much is what it was.
So glad she did.
Yeah.
A
So,
female needed to be present.
Amen.
yes. And
Yes.
and we expect you to bring it too.
I got it. I'm ready. I'm prepared.
She's definitely ready.
I mean, she has charts
I
and
got
graphs. I've
she
never
is.
seen
She's
anything like
definitely.
this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really is a graph over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That's
Copy
impressive.
and paste.
She's like,
Okay.
I
Okay,
need
Like
to use
still.
a printer
from the table.
today, so she was printing off 4
I
pages.
like to be ready.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. The people have questions they need answered.
The
Here to represent the people.
Well, we represent the people too. We're here for the people.
The female
so.
people. Yes.
Hey, we do
do
good
your
with our
best.
female
That's true.
demographic.
We do. We
Speaking
try.
of which, I'm sorry, Meredith.
Oh, no
I told
apology
you
needed.
we talk a little bit about sports here. We have
Great.
a contest going.
Yes.
So last week we mentioned we had a NFL player who had played on the Super Bowl. Send in your guesses. We're going to give you another clue this week because we did have some guesses.
Yep.
But
They were good ones.
I think we need to narrow the field down a little bit. We're trying to help you guys out. Winner gets a $25 gift card. Maybe multiple winners. We don't know yet. But this player played for the Tennessee Titans in the Super Bowl. So one of the guesses we had this week from Miss Penny was Peyton Manning. That is not correct. Great guess. If Peyton Manning wants to come on, we'll carve a timeout for him.
We would love to have him on.
Podcast at parkwaybc.net.
Podcast at parkwaybc.net. Thank you, Lori. You've earned your paycheck already. Podcast at parkwaybc.net. Make sure you email those guesses in or leave a comment on our YouTube video. Peyton Manning, come on in. We will not interfere with your Monday night football schedule. We will schedule another night.
When you come in, just bring Eli with you. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah, zoom
Or we
in on
can
him.
come on Monday night.
Yeah.
We could come on the Monday night broadcast. There we go.
It's a nice little setup there.
Willing to travel.
I love it, guys. Dreaming big, aiming high.
right.
Yeah. Shoot for the
Shoot for the stars.
So, if you want in on the contest, former Tennessee Titan who played in the Super Bowl, what's your guesses? Who do you think it is that will be a guest on here shortly? And the winner or winners get $25 gift card mailed right to your email address. So, all right, there we go. Now getting on with the good stuff. Miss Meredith Andrews, multiple time award winner. How did you start singing? Have you sang your entire life since you were a kid, or did you just pick it up on a whim one day as a teenager?
Well, okay, so I grew up in a little town in North Carolina, a little town called Wilson, and my mom was part of the praise and worship team at our tiny church. Like, it was literally maybe 80 people on a good Sunday, you know. We were just small. So everybody kind of pulled double duty. My mom helped with praise and worship and children's ministry. My dad was an elder, and then he mowed the lawn every other Saturday, you know. So we were there all the time. I grew up under a pew, and I loved it. I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 5, 3 weeks in a row, just to make sure I was in. And then my mom was like, "You don't have to keep doing this. You're good." But she would practice at home, and she had, like, she called it a songmate. It was essentially like a karaoke machine, but it had 2 tape decks and 2 microphone jacks, and she'd put in her backing tracks, and she would practice, and I would sit there wherever she was, and I would listen, and I'd hum along. And I don't even know how exactly people figured out that I could somewhat stay on pitch. But when I was 6, I was asked to sing special music for offering. And, you know, again, small church, they're hurting for special music. They need some variety. They got to change it up a little bit. So let's ask the 6-year-old. And I sang, "I Love You, Lord." You know, that old song that it's got one part, and I love it, and it was easy, but it still means so much to me. I love that song. So that's kind of where it started. Yeah. And then I started singing with my mom, and we'd sing Southern gospel music, and we'd sing in, like, other small area churches and, like, little, you know, revival meetings or whatever, and we would snap and clap and had these little synchronized moves. It wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't like Backstreet Boys or anything. It was just more like swaying side to side, and she'd sing the first verse and I'd sing the second verse, and that was kind of what it was, you know, but it worked.
Yeah.
You cannot see the videos, sorry.
Well, so now we know there are
There are
videos.
videos to be seen. There are
They're
videos
locked
to be
in a
seen.
vault.
VHS.
Yes, VHS.
VHS.
Oh, 100%.
So,
Yes.
so we need all of the listeners to email at
Oh,
podcastparkwaybc.net.
goodness.
Go to meredithandrews.com. Go to her Facebook page and let her know. We need to see the videos.
The people need the videos.
Yes, we do.
Right.
We need to see the snaps.
Oh,
the
man.
claps,
All right.
all
Got to
that good
call my
stuff.
mom and see if she can dig them out of the attic.
That's right.
we are about self-embarrassment here as well.
I love
So-
it.
So something I read about you also was your parents were foster parents.
Yeah.
What was that like having kids? How many kids, I guess, first came into
Yeah.
your home? How long did they stay? I know each one was different, but
Yeah.
what was that like as an only child
Mm-hmm.
having brothers and sisters come in on a temporary basis?
Yeah. Well, I was 8 years old when my parents started fostering. And before that time, I remember saying to my mom that I really wanted a brother or sister, and that I was praying that a baby would appear in her tummy. You know, that's what just praying for it. And they had trouble getting pregnant with me, and I think it was probably 8 or 9 years that they were married until they had me. So the Lord had just put adoption on my mom's heart specifically. And I remember sitting in the bed with her and looking at this piece of paper that it was about international adoption, and it had like columns of different countries and the process of adopting from these different countries. And I think initially they were thinking about going that route. But our pastors at the time were foster parents as well. And so my mom was able to sit with my pastor's wife and just kind of hear the ins and outs and what you had to do to become a foster parent and go through the training and all of that. And they sat me down one day. I remember I was at my great grandmother's house, and they said, we're bringing home a little girl tomorrow, and her name's Nikki. And I was, beyond excited. Like my great grandmother's house was tiny, and I was trying to do cartwheels in her living room. Pretty sure I kicked a coffee table, but I was so excited. And she was this first little girl that we had. She was just the most precious little girl. And when she came to us, she was not quite 2, but she had not yet learned how to walk, and so she crawled around on her knees. And after a few months, she was running around our house, and just the happiest, sweetest little girl. And I just felt like she was my human baby doll, like she's my. And I took her to show and tell one time in 2nd grade, but she did go back with her mom, and that was a very, very hard day that will forever be etched in my memory, because we knew that her mom was going to come for an in-home visit, but we didn't know what the outcome would be. We knew that she had the option of, working with social services and potentially taking Nikki back. And I don't know, I guess I just hoped she would stay with us. But I came home from school, and the house was really quiet. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table drinking a cup of coffee. I was dropped off from a carpool, and I said, "Mom, where's Nikki?" And she said she went back to live with her mom. And I just fell on my knees with my backpack still on me, and just bawled my eyes out in the middle of the hallway. And as an 8 or 9-year-old kid, that was really hard. It was the first, I guess for me, it was probably one of my first experiences of loss. But I will say that it was so worth it just to get to have that experience. And to, for me as a kid, I didn't understand all the ins and outs, obviously, of what these kids had been through and why they even needed to live with us. My parents would just give me the, 8-year-old version, essentially. But I knew that I loved them. And some kids stayed for a weekend or a week, if they were in transition, or I remember we had this brand new baby boy named Ezekiel. His mom, they were from Ecuador, and his mom had him in the States and had to have surgery. And so we just had this just tiny little baby, this Latino baby boy. I'm like, I love you. Anyway, he was just the sweetest. But, and some kids would stay longer, 9 months to a year. And then my parents ended up adopting 3 boys, and 2 of them are brothers. And my youngest was from a family where, we had his brother and sister, his older brother and sister, before he was born. And so when his mom got pregnant again, they asked if we would adopt the baby. And so we brought him home from the hospital, and I was 12. And that was, I think he was the last child that came into our home, because we had about 20 kids in 4 years. Wow. And, not at the same time, obviously. I think 5 was the most at one time. And again, some would stay just a short period and some for longer. But, I don't even know where a lot of those kids ended up, but I just have to believe that God brought them into our family's lives for a reason, even if it was just for a couple days, and that it impacted them in some way that was eternal,
What lessons did that teach you? I can only imagine 8, 9, 10 years old, however old you were, as your parents were, allowing foster children in your home. What did that teach you? What were your parents teaching you? Probably that they didn't even realize at the time.
Well, I think what I saw, especially in my mom, was, and still, she's just very generous. And when I say that, I mean just of herself. She is so giving of herself, and she's so willing to give of herself. And even before we started fostering, when we would be on our way to church, there was a row of houses that were kind of lower income housing, and there would be this one duplex where these 3 kids would be playing outside. And one day my mom just stopped and said, "Would you mind if I took your kids to church? I mean, it was just down the block, and that was like normal. Like my mom would just pick up kids off the street and take them to church, and so of course they're going to come live with us, and of course we're just going to love on them. And I know that there were times where my parents felt unqualified to meet the needs of some of these kids because of the abuse and the trauma that they had been through. But what I saw was just a willingness to serve and to love and to pour into these kids. And it really drove home this, just what Jesus says about loving the least of these, and I later went to Liberty University, and my major was family and child development because I think because of my mom, the Lord instilled within me a heart for kids, especially kids that don't have parents, especially orphans. And I was planning on moving to Guatemala, and that's a whole nother story. But I had spent
got time.
I'd gone to Guatemala 6 times during the time I was at Liberty, and would keep going back to this one orphanage, and thought I was going to move there. And it turns out that, family and child development, I guess, was for my own children, but I'm still trying to develop them. Lord help me.
Teach us what you've learned.
Oh goodness! Every day I'm like, Jesus, take the wheel. Yeah. But
have you been able to reconnect with any of the foster kids that were in your home as adults? Do you know where any of them have
actually
landed?
Well, I do. We do know where my youngest brother's siblings they were adopted by a family in Florida, and my mom kept in touch with them for a while. I don't know when the last time it was that she talked to them, because they'd be in their, it's crazy, late 20s now, and it's so nuts. I've thought about looking some up on Facebook. I can't remember all their last names. My mom might be able to, but what was weird, this is a complete kind of a different thing, but I started sponsoring a kid through World Vision in my freshman year of college, and he was 12 when I started sponsoring him, and he aged out 8 years later or whatever it was, and he found me on Facebook.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And so we started talking. It was so crazy. I'm like, is this real life?
Wow.
Anyways,
wow, that's pretty cool.
That's the beauty of just being able to connect with people.
Yes. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, all over the world.
So growing up, what were some of the artists that you listened to, or songs that were playing in your home, or albums you remember that inspired you? Yeah.
So many. It's which decade?
I know. Start early.
I know. Okay. Well, I did. My earliest memories, I would say, are like Salty the Singing Songbook.
Absolutely.
All day, every day.
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
Salty.
Oh,
Do you know
bless
what
it.
that
I
is?
do
I
not.
don't think
Yo!
I
I
do
totally
not
know.
either. Come
Yes.
on.
Oh, and there was
I
like
do
It was
volume
a blues
one. Yes.
songbook. He was a blues songbook. It was a person in a blues song. Anyways,
Yes.
they had a video.
Salty.
Salty,
But it was
spelled
PS.
P.S. like Psalms, like salty. Anyway, and it was like for kids, and that was my jam.
Yes.
And
I
then
mean, if it wasn't on like Reading Rainbow or something, I probably wouldn't.
They didn't play Salty.
no, they did not. And then I remember Johnny Erickson Tata had a kids tape. I mean, it was a tape.
Yeah.
Sandy Patty had a kids tape.
Yes.
Those are the ones that I remember when I was a kid. And then my mom loved this worship leader named Don Moen, who wrote this song, God is Good All the Time. Do y'all remember? God is good. Nope. All the time.
Keep going, though.
Put a song of praise in the... Okay, no takers. Anyway.
I'm embarrassed. I don't know.
Oh,
it.
it's
What
fine.
is
It's
wrong
way
with
back.
me?
Nothing's wrong with you.
Well.
You can go look it up.
I will.
But Don Moen, okay? And I'm pretty sure my mom had a crush on him. Like, I mean, that's all we listened to. It was him, or it was like Turning Point with Dr. David Jeremiah. That was what was in the car when he picked me up from school, It was, and then I got a CD player, I think when I was like probably 10 or 11. And it was like a fancy one. Like, I had 5 discs, like, lit up. I mean, it was so amazing. I got it for Christmas.
Yes.
And I remember with that, I got, like, the Point of Grace Circle of Friends album.
Oh, yes.
They were all in white.
Oh, yes.
Do you know who Point of Grace is?
No, I don't know them.
Oh, come on. I
I'm
do
writing
know that
that-
one.
I'm
I
writing
do
that
know
one.
that
Write that
one.
one
I mean,
down.
that's pretty
Point
well
of grace.
pretty well
He's
known.
a little younger than we are,
He
so
is. He is. He's the baby.
he should
Yeah, I
still
am.
know.
Do you have Jesus in your heart?
I do.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
First live
Just
intervention
checking.
here on the podcast.
It is. We're
Romans
we
Road,
are
here
really,
we go.
really stepping it up. We're really stepping it up.
Hey, we don't know how much time we got left, y'all.
That's true.
Very,
Anyway.
very true.
So, and then, I mean, Rebecca St. James. Have you ever heard of For King and Country? Okay, well, it's their big sister. Rebecca St. James, she was like my favorite. Like, I was quasi a stalker of her. Like, I had all her records. I went to see her in concert and had this crazy moment with the Lord at her concert. And then I had her 40 Days with God devotional. And I know all the members of her family, which is weird now because I like know them. And like I go to her parents' farm and I'm like, hi guys, I've known y'all for a long time.
I know a whole lot more about you than you think I
You
do.
have no idea really who I am. I just come and here's all your animals. They have a lot of animals. I mean, it's hilarious because they have. This is a side note, but there's a friend of mine who's a producer who works at the Smallbone Farm. He has like a little barn. So anytime we're recording takes, we have to wait till the rooster shuts
my
up or the
goodness.
guineas or like, I mean, the donkeys. I mean, there's like all the farm animals. It's quite comical. Anyway,
I think Rebecca St. James has a podcast now.
really?
I think so.
Yeah.
Someone can fact check me, but let's say that's true.
Amazing.
Let's say that's true.
Well, I don't know
I mean,
that
if
she'll
you were
have.
still stalking them online, you
Right.
might know.
I kind of quit my stalking ways. It got a little weird. I just like, let's go.
Confess,
Had to
repent.
back
Yes. Jesus, you're the famous one. But I did meet her. When was it? In the like last no, it was the beginning of the year. We were at this like worship event and she was there and I walked right past her and Jacob's like I was like, what? And he's like, Rebecca St. James. I was like, Rebecca St. James. And she was in the flesh and she was with one of my really good friends and like we were talking and I'm like, it's so funny because I'm like, yeah, you don't even know. Like, she's got her baby. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you have no idea. Which people say that to me now, and it's so funny. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I was such a fangirl when I was growing up. I loved Christian music. Like, I still have all the CD cases in my cabinet at my parents' house. And I would read through all the lyrics. I would look at who wrote the songs. I would look at who played on the albums. I looked at the record labels. I mean, I was a geek about it, you know, and it was just so fascinating to me. But yeah, Nicole Nordeman's one of my favorites. Darlene Check, of course, from Hill. You know, she was original Hillsong, Shout the Lord. Rita Springer, which Rita was one of my favorites, and she was with Vineyard for a long time, and that's how I first heard of her. And now she's one of my dear friends. And it's, again, I had to it took me a few tries to remember how to speak English in the room. Because it just like when you're with people who have impacted your life in such a profound way, and you can never fully articulate. Like, I could never fully articulate to her, even though I've told her like 100 times and she's probably tired of hearing it. Like, the number of times that I laid on my floor and bawled my eyes out to your song, Make Us a Prayer or Fragrant Offering. It's like, I can't even count them on one hand, but the Lord knows he was there. Anyways. So.
Well, how does that feel now when people do that to you? Because I've got a story for you.
Great. I love stories.
Which I've told you, and I'm skipping a bunch of stuff, but with
Well,
you...
Yeah, I don't know if we can get to all your
Part
stuff.
two,
Yes, well,
baby,
because
part
skip
two.
it.
Because
Might be
I
part
talk
2
a
and
lot.
3.
Sorry, guys.
No.
Yes, no, you're fine.
You are here to carry the conversation.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
you are doing.
Yeah,
what
but the
you're
problem is
supposed
there's no clock in the room, so
It's
I have
okay.
no idea what time it is.
That's
to.
fine.
Right there.
Oh.
That's how many
That's
minutes
our
we've
clock.
been
Timer.
So just
It's a
the
timer.
green number on the left.
It's how many minutes
That's
we've been
minutes.
going.
Yes.
Okay, great. But I just don't know what time it is.
But,
But it's fine.
If you're not busy tomorrow, we can do this again tomorrow.
Well, it's fine. No, well, it's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so I might
Yeah,
need
you
to
gotta
skip
bring her
tomorrow.
on. Bring her on.
Yes.
We did have cake for Ryan on his birthday up
You
here.
did.
Oh,
You did. It is
nice.
possible.
Sweet.
We can always
Yes.
make arrangements for that.
Yes, we can.
Amazing.
Well, I ask how it feels now when people tell you how you have impacted or a song that you've written. And I'll tell you one, and then you can say how, just how it feels now that you know both sides of it. But
Yeah.
the first time I met you, which was at an Upwards Award night several years ago, I got to tell you really quickly what your song, Not for a Moment, meant to us. So I think I told you that night we had tried for a long time to have our child. And she stood beside me as I told you this story, which
Yeah.
was like such a cool God full circle moment.
Yeah.
But I think did it come out in 2013 somewhere around?
Not for a moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So we went through in vitro to have Amelia. And so as we would drive to the clinic, there are several songs that would stick out to me. And even to this day, when I hear them, it like almost takes me back in time to that season of driving to Nashville and being sick and all these things. And so Not for a Moment was one of those that we would hear. And so then when we had her and all those words of that song, which I printed because I can sing it all day, but when you go to say it, I'm like, I don't know how to speak these words.
No, same. And I wrote the song.
Yes. But when, all of these things about God that he was for us during that time. And after all, you are constant. After all, you're only good. After all, you are sovereign. Not for a moment will you forsake me. And I ended up singing this song for her baby dedication because after we went through that, these words were like so real to me.
Yeah.
And, you were reaching through the storm, walking on the water, even when I couldn't see, in the middle of it all, when I thought you were 1,000 miles away, not for a moment did you forsake me. And so in the midst of the storm, you don't, it's always when you reflect back that you see, oh my goodness, you were there all along. You were with us. You provided in so many ways. And so this song to us, which we call Amelia's song, because it was so it was on the radio, and then the words spoke such truth to us. And then, as we held her in our arms and we heard this song, you almost can't hear it now without crying.
Totally.
So how does that feel? And I would love to know, when you wrote that song, like, what were you going through? What did you reflect back on when you wrote that song? Tell us everything.
Yeah. Before you answer that, is that a copyright infringement that you just changed the name to her song, or
to Amelia's song?
Yeah.
I'm happy for it to be called Amelia's song.
I think her record
You can start
label,
introducing it as
Quotes.
such.
Yes.
the lawyers at her record label may have something to say about that.
Oh, they're fine.
That
They're
part might get
fine.
muted.
They're fine.
That's right.
No, I love that because it's personal to you, and it's so astounding to me that I can go into a writing room and have a conversation with my friends. In this case, it was my husband and one of my closest friends, Mia. And to talk about seeing the faithfulness of God in every season, even when things didn't turn out the way I'd hoped. And then see how, there's a ripple effect. Because what's interesting, and this is the case for most of, I would say 99% of the songs that I write, before they're released, I get to live with them and I get to be ministered to by them, honestly. In the writing process, it's like therapy, because I'm just remembering who God is and what he said and standing on his promises that are true. And Not for a Moment was very much this is a promise. And God keeps his promises. His promises are yes and amen in Christ Jesus. So if he said he's not going to leave me, he's not going to leave me. If he says he's not going to forsake me, he's not going to forsake me. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to walk a hard road, but I don't have to walk it alone. And to be honest, when we wrote the song, there wasn't necessarily a scenario in that moment that brought it about. But what was interesting was that it was like God gave it to us in a time where he knew we were going to need it. Because maybe a month after we had finished it, my youngest brother walked through something really, really hard. And it was just devastating to our family. And it was around the holidays. And I remember just singing that bridge over and over again. Just reminding myself, and I wasn't singing it for anybody else. I was singing it over myself and back to the Lord, reminding him of his promises and going, God, I believe you're not finished. And in my hurt, at my worst, when my world falls down, not for a moment will you forsake me. And then, so that was the beginning of December. The end of December, a couple of days after Christmas, my husband, Jacob, his cousin, lost her first baby, and at full term, she was stillborn. And we had our first son. We had Maverick, but he was the only grandchild so far, or great grandchild so far, and we had never sang Not for a Moment in public until Amelia's graveside, when we sang it there for her funeral, and it wasn't anything that was planned, like we never thought we would have to sing this song, burying this baby that never got a chance to live very long outside of, or at all outside of her mother's womb. And so songs are, a lot of times like lifelines, it's like the Lord will just drop them into our laps when we don't know we need them, but to carry us through certain situations and trials, just to remind us of who He is and that He's holding us. And so now whenever I hear even stories like yours, and I'm just amazed. I'm just like, wow, God, like that you would use this little offering, to like bless the hearts of people. And, you see it as, bless like the hearts of a lot of people, but then you hear those individual stories and you see how God was at work in your individual story and in your life and in your womb. And it's just, I'm just so grateful and humbled and just blown away, honestly, because I still feel like a very normal human being from the small town in North Carolina, like, and maybe that's good. Like I never want to be like, God's not calling me to be a celebrity. He's calling me to serve people, to love people, to minister to Him and minister to His people. And it's such a privilege, and I love talking with people. I love hearing their stories. I love hearing how God has met them through my songs or in other scenarios. And it's just, we're all just in this together, like we're all brothers and sisters. The ground is level at the foot of the cross. There's no hierarchy in the kingdom of God. Like Jesus is on the throne and we're just here. We're like, I'm just glad to be here. You know what I mean? So
the alternative was not so
right.
That's right.
not so inviting.
Not at all.
So, talking about writing music and songwriting, kind of what is your process? So I've heard people say, a guitar player, I can come up with the music and the song would write itself. Mm-hmm. And then I've heard other people say, no, you come up with the lyrics and the words and the music will write itself.
Sure.
So kind of for your process, what is that, where do you fall in that?
Yeah. Well, when I first started, I was just writing songs by myself. And I mean, the first song I ever wrote, I was 12 and it had 6 verses and no chorus. So I had no idea. I like no gauge on like song structure. I guess I thought I was like a modern day hymn writer or something. Like this verse, 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 verse.
I'm sitting on gold here. Gold.
Which I then sent to the copyright office because I didn't know what else to do with it. And I'm like, hey, yay. They sent it back with like a stamp on it. And I'm like, cool. Now what? But my process has definitely evolved over the years, and I started co-writing. I think towards the end of college, and then out of college, I was co-writing a good bit more. And now I prefer to co-write. When I would write by myself, I would say that most of the time it felt like just inspiration hit. I'd go to the piano and I'd just clunk out something, and didn't know, is this good? Is this not good? But Matt Redman always says there's no bad songs. There's just unfinished songs. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, I get it, what he's saying. Because like you got to start somewhere. And with, as it is with anything, like the more you do it, the better you get, the more honed in on your craft. And the more I just kind of learned to tap into, I don't want to just spit out a song because it follows the rules or it sounds good or it ticks a box. Like, I want to write a song that is truly from my heart, that blesses the heart of God, that encourages people, that draws them into the presence of God, that points them straight to Jesus. Like, that's my goal. So I write with like-minded people who have that same goal in mind. And I just love getting in a room with either strangers or people that I know really well, and just striking up a conversation and seeing what comes out of that. You know, sometimes it's small talk, and then you go, well, what are you going to write? Sometimes they tell you their whole life story, and you're like, well, I think we've got a song here somewhere, and we just got to go digging for it a little bit, you know? But it's a really beautiful process. And my husband is a keyboard player and producer, and anytime he starts playing keys, I instantly have melodies come or lyrics. Like, it's just so inspiring to me. Now, if I do it, it's like, nothing, you know? But if he does it, I'm like, what is this magic? Like, I don't understand. That's why I quit playing piano when I married him. But I just get really inspired by music that feels beautiful and creative, and a lot of times melodies and lyrics will come from that. So sometimes it's both and for me. I kind of prefer to write melody and lyric together, but a lot of times I will come in with either a phrase or like 4 lines of a concept. But if I don't have a melody around it, it's kind of like, it's just like wet clay, you know, and like, we'll just see how this takes shape, you know.
As a career musician, though, is it hard to kind of be selective and only put out music that is inspiring and you know, is praise to God? Do you ever have a struggle of, man, I know I could make a song that would be on the radio or, you know, would be popular and put some money in my pocket? Like,
Sure.
is that kind of a struggle for you or no?
Well, maybe because I've never actually had crazy radio success. Like, Not for a Moment was probably the most played song that I've had. That and a song I had called You're Not Alone, which was my first single, like, a long time ago. It's a ballad. Like, who puts a ballad out for their first single? But anyway.
It was a hit.
I don't know if it's a hit. I don't know the hit.
It's totally a
I mean,
hit.
it was fine, but I did write that song by myself, and it was like a download from the Lord. I was like crying and like writing on this notepad, and like, I hear you, Lord, and He's like, you're not alone. I'm like, okay. Anyway,
Y'all know that song. You don't know you know that song, but y'all know that song.
it's fine. It's old. It's like, oh gosh, it's old. Anyway, I think for me, I did have a very interesting moment where I walked into a writer's room when I first come to Nashville, and it was at my record label, and I didn't know the people I was writing with, which was kind of par for the course, but it was fine. Like, you get to write with these new people, and you get to know them, and it's fun, and it's great. But as this record label executive, if you will, was like closing the door, she goes, write a hit. And I'm like, and I looked at the people in the room that I really didn't know. I was like, is that why we're here? That's not why I'm here. Like, I just want to write a song that honors the Lord. And I think, like, when you establish that early on, and I will say this too, I've walked through some disappointment with my music. Like, things haven't always worked out or gone as quickly or as far as I envisioned or hoped. And I remember when my first album came out, there was a lot of hype kind of around it. And, I mean, all these different Christian magazines were writing articles about me, this new girl. And I was like, wow, really? I'm like, I don't think I'm that special, but cool. And then a few months after my album had come out, I remember, and this was in 2008, I remember we lived in Chicago at the time. My husband and I released an album in April. We got married in May. So we were living in Chicago and working at a church there. And I remember one night, I think Jacob was on tour with Jeremy Camp, because that's a whole other story, but that's how we met. He played keys for Jeremy. And so he was out on the road and I was home alone. And I was like, Lord, I don't understand. Like, this is not doing what I thought I was going to do. Like, what is going on? I thought you called me to this. And God said so clearly to my spirit, Meredith, why would you think that just because you didn't sell a certain number of records, I didn't call you to this? And I was like, I just thought maybe that would be evidence of something you were doing. I don't know. That's not illogical to me, Lord. And he's like, this is what I've called you to is not an industry. You know, it really is to minister to my heart and to minister to the hearts of people to where they want to be in my presence. And that's not always going to be the most popular, and it's not always going to be what sells, and it's not going to be what's necessarily on the radio. But if you take care of the depth, I will take care of the breadth. That's what he said to me. So it's been this marathon of learning and growing with the Lord, of listening and refining, and man, some really hard stuff and some disappointment and some I've got to humble myself here, and I feel overlooked, but God, it's not about me, so you do whatever you want to do. And I've just seen the Lord be so faithful and so kind, and I don't know if I could write a hit if I tried, honestly, because it's just not my lane. I don't think I would. I don't know, maybe one day God will let me write a hit. We'll see. It's okay.
Well, that's something. Sorry, Lori. That's something we've talked about before here with different guests, of not measuring yourself against worldly standards, what the world says.
Yep.
Especially in America, this is success. This is what success should be.
Yeah.
Is a lot of times in direct conflict with what God says his success should look
100%.
like. 100%.
Well, and that reminds me, one of my friends always says, success in the world or to the world looks like accomplishments. It looks like achievements. It looks like the gold birds on my shelf.
Mm-hmm.
But success in the kingdom looks like obedience. It looks like obedience. It looks like surrender. You know, it's an opposite kingdom. And I just want to be obedient, you know. And it's just a side note, kind of funny story, but the Doves were just a couple weeks ago, and I was actually out of town, but my husband won a Dove for something. I should know this. Oh, it was a gospel. It was a gospel album. Anyway, sorry.
Man, I should have done better
I
homework.
really don't pay
I could have brought
attention.
that up in the
No, it's fine.
in the
Sorry.
open.
It's all good.
Slacker.
I don't know. But I think Jacob's won like 3 or 4. I think this was maybe his 4th. But it was so funny because one of my kids, I can't remember if it was Remy, who's my middle, or Frankie, my daughter, my youngest, said to my mother-in-law, like, I don't know why Dad wants another one of those. He's already got 4. It's so funny. It's like,
That's
we already
enough.
have these. We don't need more. That was so funny. Yeah.
So when you're writing songs that are intended for worship, like what type of a responsibility does it feel that it's, theologically sound and that it lines up with the Word of God? Knowing, I mean, we can all remember songs from our childhood. We know how ingrained music. I mean, it's so easy to put scripture to a song because then you know it. But what kind of a responsibility does that feel like when you're making sure your song lines up with scripture? People are going to be using it to worship Him.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's always kind of what's like on the forefront of my mind. I wouldn't say I might have felt it as pressure when I first started, but now it's kind of like a challenge because I go like, God, I just want to communicate your heart. I want to communicate your word. Show me what you want to be written in this song to put in the mouths of your people to sing back to you. And I don't want it to be anything else. I don't want it to be my viewpoint or my opinion, you know. But what's also beautiful is how God invites us to partner with Him. And we all have different lenses. We all have different experiences. We all have different filters and ways that we view things, way that we do things. We have different personalities. And so it's just so cool to see like how God births different sounds and different lyrics and different things through different people because we're all created in His image, but none of us are cut from the same cloth. You know what I mean? Like we're unique in that. So it's definitely a massive responsibility, and one that I don't take lightly, but also one that I just am so honored to get to attempt to, again, put songs in the mouths of God's people to sing back to him.
I know that you referenced Chicago, and what brought you to Nashville?
Well, so we were in Chicago. I'm not from Chicago. Remember, that was hard. I'm like, Lord, that's why you're not alone, because I moved to Chicago from North Carolina.
A long way from Wilson, North Carolina.
Yes.
Probably just
no sweet tea. So much snow.
That's a biggie.
Yeah.
For those of you listening in a region of the country without sweet tea,
It's wrong.
we will pray for you.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I'll never forget. First, I was driving in Chicago, and somebody like in traffic like flipped me the bird, and I had to pull over and cry because I was like, "No, I'm such a bad driver. This is one of these mean, evil people." Anyway, so yeah, I was in Chicago for 10 years on staff at a church there, and my husband, he came on staff after we got married, so he was there for 8. We were there together for 8. And had our boys in Chicago. It's so crazy. But we moved to Nashville over 7 years ago. And I was pregnant with my daughter, and we just felt like the Lord released us from Chicago and made a way for us to come to Nashville. And Jacob and I met in Nashville. Okay. He's from Louisiana. I'm from North Carolina. It's right in the middle. It made sense. We wanted to be here. We were ready to get out of the frozen tundra.
Sure.
Sure. And the Lord just opened the door. So, yeah, we came about 7 years ago and have lived in East Nashville pretty much ever since. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Before we get away completely from the Dove Awards
Uh-huh.
and all, your entire bookcase of them you have in your
Oh,
house.
gosh. No.
We like behind the scenes information.
Yes.
So can
Great.
you tell us a little bit about like red carpet experience? What is that
boy.
for the people who are on the red carpet? We're all looking at you. What is it like for you looking back this way?
Well, it's pretty intense, honestly, because you can't see it necessarily, but it's like every 2 feet there's another person asking you questions. So you're going through this interview line, and they're just asking you a lot of questions. Some of them are the same questions you just got, and so you're trying to be authentic and not give like the verbatim same answer you just said. It's fun, but it's very intense, and it's very fast moving. Like it only lasts for maybe 5 minutes usually, because, well, maybe a little longer, but it's fast. And I haven't actually done one in a while, so I might be a little rusty, I might be just the slow grandma. I mean, like, guys, can we just take our time? I have a lot more to say, I don't want to talk about surface stuff. I'm just not a surface kind of person. I like to get to the deep, the good stuff, so anyways.
Give me that back. I wasn't done talking. Give me the microphone.
Right.
Don't move on.
I was like, you have your own mic. What are you yelling at me?
Yeah, Ryan got scared for a minute.
He
Right. I was
did.
like, hold up.
He did.
Put your arm around him. Give him a hug.
Yeah, buddy. Love you, brother.
Was there ever a particular moment or anything like that that you were like, I made it?
I made it.
Yes.
Oh.
You finally got to where you like a goal or anything like that.
I can answer that. When I reached out for her to come on
Yes,
GPS
I was
to God.
like, I get to go
Amen.
on GPS to God.
That's it.
Man,
Podcast.
what did I do to deserve this?
I made the podcast.
Yes. Oh, man. I can't say that there's ever been a moment that I've thought like, oh, I made it. Because, what's interesting is like, I think we could all probably attest to this. Even when you have a dream, if that dream gets fulfilled, you're not going to stop there. It's like, well, I still have breath in my lungs and a heart beating in my chest, so God still got use for me here.
Right.
Like, I still want to love people well. I still want to, like, make new goals and have new dreams and make a difference and an impact in the world around me, But I do, one night that was really special for me was actually Dove Awards 7 years ago. I was very pregnant with my daughter. I'm not sure when you air this, but tomorrow she'll be 7, and the doves are in October. So I was literally like 9 months pregnant with her, and they wanted me to sing "Open Up the Heavens" at the doves, and I was like, okay, I'll do my best. But I had like a stylist. Lori, this might be more up your alley, but she found me this dress that was like this black sequin dress that it wasn't a maternity dress, but it worked somehow. Went over my big old basketball belly. And I'll just never forget, though, like for King and Country, we're actually hosting, I think, that year, maybe with Mercy Me, Bart Millard or something like that. But they were like telling jokes, and we were behind the curtain and getting ready to go, and I'm literally like hands on my knees, like bent over, just trying to breathe. Like I wasn't in labor, but I'm like, I need oxygen. Like this curtain's gonna open, I'm gonna have to sing. Like, but I just need air. But it was just a fun night because, like, so many of those people, I know them. They've become my friends, and they're like, there's Meredith and her big old belly up there just singing her heart out. And that was just a fun moment, not that necessarily I'd made it, but just like, wow, this is like a dream come true. I'm singing at the Doves. I'm pregnant with my daughter. I had 2 boys before her, and like, it's just, I'm so grateful. Like, I'm in this black sequin dress that I have to give back tomorrow, but it's fine. Like, I'm just thankful that I get to not look like a walrus, So anyway, it was a sweet memory.
That's awesome.
Do you have to clean those clothes before you give them back? And
No,
you just hand them back?
You just hand them back, and they like dry clean them. I'm pretty sure Carrie Underwood wore that for the CMAs like the next week or whatever it was. I'm like, that was my dress. Anyway.
We're gonna
dig up some photos.
We'll back your story.
We'll
Okay,
back your
perfect.
story.
Yeah,
we will.
Thanks.
One thing you mentioned earlier was World Vision.
Yeah.
Can you tell people what that is a little bit, and are you still involved with that?
Yes. My family actually sponsors a little boy from Honduras named Javier, and he's so sweet. But we started sponsoring through World Vision because they came to our church. And what I love about World Vision, so they're a child sponsorship organization, but primarily is kind of how they started. But it's really incredible. I've actually gotten to know some of the people over there, and back in August did a like a pastor's retreat with them in Utah at Snowbird. They just invited all these very random, like there was no one denomination. They wanted it to be very diverse, culturally, all of it. So they had all these different denominations, all these different backgrounds. It was so beautiful, but they wanted pastors just to come be poured into and loved on. And so they invited me to come lead worship for that weekend, which was really sweet. And I got to know a lot of their staff there, and they're just incredible. But one of the things I love about World Vision and their child sponsorship program is they started something called Chosen, their Chosen program, which usually you go to an event or, like a women's conference or a concert, and you'll see a Compassion World Vision or another kind of table, and they'll have like these kind of pamphlets with a child's picture and a little bit of information, and you choose one. Well, this is actually, you take a picture of your family, and they take it to a certain village, and they hang up all these pictures of all these families, and then the kid gets to pick the family. So Javier picked us. I know. So it just really, I love it so much. And they show the video, like our pastors went down for the whole thing, and some of the World Vision staff were there, and they had a video of it, and it was just like I bawled my eyes out. Just the sweetest thing, watching these kids like look at these pictures of like, who's going to be my sponsor, and anyway, it's just really sweet, and I just love what they're about.
That's a little bit of pressure though, not to fail, because they have your picture. Like,
That's right.
Oh, I know, and I'm so bad at like sending letters and stuff, So I tell my kids all the time, like, y'all, we gotta write a letter to Javier. We gotta make sure we're sending all this stuff,
Step it up.
Yeah, step it up. One day I want to go visit him, which I think we could probably do because Honduras is, easy to get to. But I've already put a bug in the ear of the World Vision team. I'm like, when y'all gonna let me go? I'm like, maybe after COVID settles down a little bit. I'm like, fine, it's fine.
COVID. That's the world's excuse now. That's COVID.
COVID schmovid.
That's right.
Easy excuse. Easy excuse.
So is there anything new that you've been working on that you can, this is first, you've never heard it anywhere else?
Well, I don't
On
know about
podcast.
first.
Exclusive.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Well, this is a few months old, so sorry to disappoint you. But I did release my very first Spanish album back in May. It's called Ábrenos los cielos, which is Open Up the Heavens.
Nice.
And I think it's 11 songs. No, I don't even remember.
How do you say that in Spanish?
11
There you go.
canciones. And 9 of those were previously recorded in English, so Not for a Moment is on there. 2 of them are new songs that I've recorded. Well, one of it, okay, it's complicated. One of them is a song called Make Room that was recorded previously by the people who wrote it, but it's a worship song that I love so much, and so I wanted to record it. And it just so happened that it came out in Spanish before it came out in English, just the way that like timing worked out. And then the other new song is a song called Carry the World, but it's in Spanish. And I'm blanking right now on what the title is because it's been so long since I sang it. And I'm not fluent. I just am conversational, and it's late at night. So anyways, I know you can't tell. There's like no windows. But anyway.
The magic of Hollywood right here in Middle Tennessee.
That's right. Impressive. But Carry the World is, I'm hoping that we'll get to release it in the next 2 years. I don't know. Because I say that kind of jokingly. We recorded it over a year ago in English and in Spanish. It released in Spanish first. But it feels like a very now message. Like it's just with everything that's happening in the world. Like, the chorus is simple, but it just says, I can't carry the world, but you can. You're holding it all in your hands. And I've had to, even in the last year and a half, continually bring myself back to like, God, you're on your throne. Like this doesn't make any sense to me. And I really want to go like strangle. Well, I don't want to strangle anybody, but I do just want to fix this. I want it to be fixed, and I want it to be done with, and it says bonkers. And I have just had to go like, Lord, I trust you. Like, you're on your throne, and I don't understand your ways, but I know that you take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it around and use it for good. And so even just with Carry the World, I'm reminded of that scripture in 2 Corinthians 4, it's the end of the passage. It says, therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we're being renewed day by day. And so, and it says these light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal weight of glory that far outweighs them all. And then the very last verse says, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen, because what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And that's where I'm at. Like with all of this, I'm like, I can't fix or control or figure this out, but Lord, I'm going to choose to fix my eyes on the unseen and listen for like, what is the strategy of heaven and why, if you knew this was going to happen, like, why are we here now? What the church, what is our role as the church right now? How do we stand for what is true and what is right? How do we love people well? How do we not give into the cultural narrative, but stand on the word of God, because that is the true narrative, you know? And that was a lot to be said about one song, but that's what I feel when I sing that. I'm just going like, I can't carry it, God, but I know you can. And would you show me what is my response? And would you show me like, how to just go like, this isn't my jurisdiction. And then when it is, when you want me to step in and say something, when you want me to stand for freedom, when you want me to keep my mouth shut, just give me wisdom, you know, because I tend to like see something like on social media and hits my justice button and I'm like, hello, this is not okay. So I'm just like, Lord, help me. I just want to love people well. I want to love you well. But I think too, I do believe that, telling the truth is one of the most loving things we can do. Telling people the truth. the truth of the gospel, the truth of what is in the word of God, because everything that God has said in his word is for our protection. It's for our good, and when we fudge the lines or we, throw out certain scriptures because they don't fit our worldview or the way that we want to live our lives, like we're doing ourselves. It really is just going to damage ourselves. It's destructive, and God is inviting us into holiness. He's inviting us into truth. He's inviting us into this place of moving from glory to glory, And so, that's maybe a little bit of a tangent, but that's just kind of where I am right now. I'm like just pressing in and going, God, what are you saying? Because the noise of the culture is very loud, but I want the word of God to be even louder.
No.
I know this is, we'll try and keep this a short answer because it's getting into a whole nother tangent.
Sure.
But kind of the music industry, and you've had a song recorded for a year and a half, 2 years. Does the record label make the decision of when to release that? Do you have any say, or is it just a can of worms?
It's a can of worms, and it's a perfect storm. And sometimes I'm just like, Lord, it's your timing, and I'm not going to try to force this if it's not the right time. But to be honest, like a lot of it was COVID. The initial months of COVID were quite an adjustment for me and my family. I think it was, and I know it was for so many people, but for us personally, it was, we're home all the time now together, and it's highlighting these things that just really need attention, these fractures and these cracks that need attention, and we need rest, and we need healing. And so there were some delays because my husband is my producer. There were just some delays with that as we were kind of working through family things, and in the meantime, a lot of people were releasing music because they were home. So then there's a lot of traffic, and the label's going, well, it's not really going to have a chance if it's just going to get lost in the mix. So it's just kind of been this conundrum, and I just have to go, well, Lord, you gave us this song 3 years ago, and so we're just going to trust that it's going to go out when it's time. And in the meantime, I sing it live whenever I do. Most of the time, whenever I'm out live. So a lot of people have recorded it and put it on YouTube. So it might be out there somewhere, but one day it'll release officially, hopefully early 2022.
Well, and that's a question I had with social media and YouTube and things like that. How has that changed? If you have this song, like, okay, I can just put it on social media, or I can release it to YouTube.
Yeah, it's actually on my Instagram. I forgot now that you say that, because we were.
Yeah, I heard it. It's good.
Yeah. I forgot because the beginning of COVID, so many people were doing Instagram lives, and so we recorded it, and it's still saved on my Instagram from March or April maybe of 2020. Mm-hmm. So you can go find it there.
Well,
can I ask a funny question?
Sure.
Or do you want to stay deep real quick?
No, that's
okay.
it. We were about to go into our thank you spiel. But
one more question.
We'll push pause on that one.
Okay.
I got a question, so go ahead.
Oh, you have a question? Okay. Give us something like when something didn't go right. Like you forgot words, your voice cracked.
Great. Perfect. So many times. Oh, gosh. We could be here all night talking about those stories. The blooper reels, right?
Yes.
Like the time when this isn't the main one. I'll share one. But I literally would have my babies with me at church when we were in Chicago, leading worship. And I would feed them, and then I would hand them off to the nursery worker, and I would after I burp and burp them. And I remember one time Remy, my second, he spit up all down my back, and it's 5 minutes before service. I'm real cool, but at least it was down my back, not my front. But I'm y'all, this is real life. I got up and told them, I was y'all, I just nursed my baby, and he spit up on me, and it's back there. But whatever, it is what it is.
You got to own it.
You got to own it.
Yeah,
you got to own it. 100%.
Stigma away.
Exactly, and I'm just a human. I can sing, but that doesn't make me any extra special. But there was this one time at Harvest, though, and this was so crazy because it was just random. We were singing a song. It was a Hillsong song called "Stronger." So this would have probably been back in 2011 or something. And all of a sudden we start hearing this very loud sound, like wailing or something. And we figured out in the middle of the song, like at first I thought it was the girl that was singing with me because she's kind of got a gospel vibe, and I just thought she was going off, and I'm like, oh, get it, Anita, okay. Like, wow, those are some notes. But it was just the same thing over and over, and I'm going, what is happening? And I finally realized, like, it's a siren. Like, there's some kind of alarm going off, and nobody can figure it out. And we're like, I'm leading this song, and it stops. No, I think in the middle of the song, I'm just like, all right, everybody, come on, lift your praise louder than the siren, stronger than the siren, or something like that, because there's a video on Vimeo or YouTube. It's stronger than the siren. You can watch the whole thing. Oh, my goodness. But after like 5 minutes, after like 5 minutes of this, and I'm like, I don't know what else to do, y'all. Why don't you just turn and say hello to somebody? And like somebody put on the screen, like on, the PowerPoint, like you are not in danger. Cause like we didn't know, like a fire alarm, like what's happening? Well, it turns out there was a bullhorn on the front row and somebody had kicked the alarm switch on. And that's why it took so long to figure out where it was coming from. And then finally they switched it off and everybody cheered.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
That's awesome.
Good times.
That's great. That's great.
So one of the things I saw was the belonging, and I saw the list of members, like the people that were singing on it, and I was like, holy cow, look at the group that you're in, like Natalie Grant, Carrie Job, Hope Darst, Cody Carnes, and like, how does that come about? How does that kind of creation?
Jesus.
Yeah.
We all just showed up at the same church. Literally,
crazy.
That's what happened. Nobody was recruited. It was just, we were looking for a place to call home, and we had actually started out at a different church. We were at Church of the City for our first year in Nashville and loved it. And then the Lord actually spoke to my husband and said, I want you, the belonging, to be your community, be your family. And we knew so many people there. Henry and Alex we had known for a while. We would stay with them whenever we would come to Nashville from Chicago. Henry mixed a bunch of the Vertical records from Chicago.
Yeah.
So we knew them, and then Mia Fields was a big part of like starting the belonging. And it was so funny because anytime we would stay with Henry and Alex, they would be meeting like on Tuesday nights, and we were never there like when they were meeting, or we always had stuff to do those nights. But Mia was the first one to be like, it's a church. And Alex was like, it's not a church. And she's like, it's a church. And it, sure enough, like it went from their basement to their church. And, it's crazy. I think it's 7 or 8 years old now. It's just grown a ton. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. But that just happened.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Well, Meredith, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Yes.
And we are so excited that we were able to do this and get schedules lined up and all that kind of stuff.
Me too.
It's been great and wonderful. First musician. So we could not have asked for a better one to come on.
Oh, well, thanks, guys.
Success looks like surrender. So that's a quote from Meredith Andrews, but we're going to steal it. So
fine with me.
Give us a chorus. Give us something.
We
can't have an artist.
We're coming. We're going to coax her back because there are so many more music industry questions and so many
you
more
have a
things.
whole page there. There's no way we talked about all that, is there?
No, we did not. I was just trying to
I
keep
know where
up with
that came
Lori.
from.
Hey, I'm not even halfway done.
She's not even
No,
done.
you got like 3 pages.
Three
Okay.
more pages and a graphic.
Yeah,
And a
Meredith
graphic.
told us earlier tonight that she is just getting her voice back, so we didn't push too hard for her to sing. But next time we are. So
Sounds good.
be on the lookout for that.
Part 2.
Yes, part
right.
2.
Perfect.
But thank you very much for being here and sharing with us and letting us kind of see behind the scenes of the music world and just being an inspiration as well. So
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
So Meredith, we always end each episode with a Bible verse. So since we have Lori here, we're going to let her take it away.
Awesome.
All right. Psalm 101, verse 1. I will sing of your love and justice. To you, Lord, I will sing praise.
Love it.
So could not be more fitting with Meredith here
Absolutely.
today. Sing to God. Don't judge your success by the world or how the world says you should be successful, but what God says, and sing your praise to Him. So that's it. We will see you all next week, Monday, on GPS to God. Thank you for listening to GPS to God. Please leave us a rating on iTunes and also subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell if you'd like to receive notifications when new episodes air.